Remains and Ravonna Renslayer are lovers, or should I say were lovers. Yep, I think this is true in the MCU based off of the first episode of Loki season 2, and I'll get to the connection of their story in the comics in just a moment, but let's rewind back to the first episode of Loki season 2 that made me think of this thought. Obviously, before we get any further, there are spoilers. In the first episode, back in time, Loki is in the war room and he plays an old tape. On that tape is He Who Remains, and we hear him say, "You are quite a marvel. I will be proud to lead with you. You made a difference in this war. Thank you for being on my team." But then Loki rewinds the tape all the way back to the beginning and then replays it, and again we hear He Who Remains initially say, "For us, for all time," and then we hear a female's voice say, "Always," and then it goes back to He Who Remains where he says, "Ravonna Renslayer, you are quite a marvel." What? There is so much to unpack from just that little bit of the episode. It sounds like Ravonna Renslayer helped He Who Remains win his multiversal war against the other Kang variants. So much so that He Who Remains says, "I will be proud to lead with you." From what I take from that, it sounds like he might be making her quote unquote a queen. However, it seems like she did something that made He Who Remains change his mind, wipe her memory, and then demote her down to an employee of the TVA. Now let's talk about how this is somewhat connected to their relationship in the comics, and let me tell you, it's a freaking wild love story. Ravonna Renslayer was a princess of Corellius? I don't know. Basically a kingdom in the 40th century. It happened to be the last kingdom in the 40th century that Kang had not conquered yet, and he decided to spare them because he fell deeply in love with Ravonna. Unfortunately for Kang, his love for Ravonna was one-sided because she did not feel the same way for him because she felt that he was a commoner and not royalty like her. In an effort to win her heart, Kang brought the Avengers to that time period so he could show off his abilities and battle prowess. Ravonna continued to deny love to Kang, and Kang just eventually got pissed off and decided to invade her kingdom. At that point, Ravonna was like, "I ain't standing for this. I'm joining up with the Avengers to fight against Kang." Much to Ravonna's dismay, Kang defeated the Avengers and took over her kingdom and ordered a wedding ceremony between himself and Ravonna. However, there was one little problem because there is a rule that Kang has that whenever he conquers a kingdom, he kills its leader immediately. And at that time, that is obviously Princess Ravonna, and since he was in love with her and wanted to marry her, he obviously was not going to kill her. That made some generals and commanders within Kang's army very upset, so much so that they rebelled against him and said that they have to follow their rules. This actually forced Kang to team up with the Avengers for a short period to go up against his rebellious army. He was successful in defeating his own army, however, one of his generals, General Baltag, was still so pissed off that he decided to attempt to assassinate Kang. But Ravonna jumped in front of the blast at the last minute, saving Kang and professed her undying love for him. Over the next 50 years, Kang would continue to mourn Princess Ravonna, visiting her tomb in between conquest of conquering other kingdoms. During this time, Kang was fighting with Thor at one point and actually created two different timelines, which created two different Kangs. One Kang went to Limbo, which was an actual place, where he believed his counterpart Immortus was once ruling, but has now since died. In Limbo, that Kang decided to use the tech to go ahead and scour the universe for Ravonna. So what Kang did was go back to that original timeline where Ravonna saved him, plucked her out of that timeline, brought him to this new one that he was in. However, in doing so, that means that that original Kang got shot and was killed. With Ravonna at his side in Limbo, he then uses all of the technology available in Limbo to go ahead and kill the rest of the divergent Kangs. Sounds a little bit like what's happening in Loki. But he soon learns that Immortus is still alive, who then banishes that Kang from Limbo, and Ravonna's like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay with Immortus instead. Peace. Now let's not forget, we have another Kang from that fight with Thor. This Kang preserved Ravonna's body after she was shot by putting her in stasis. Ravonna stays in stasis, but is revived by the Grand Master, who gave Kang the chance to revive her, but he decided to take the power of death so that he could go ahead and kill the Avengers. After being revived, Ravonna was told by the Grandmaster that Kang had the ability to revive her, and this makes her pissed. She decided at that point she was going to get revenge against Kang. So what she did was create a double of herself, put that double in stasis so that when Kang came to visit her, he wouldn't know that she was actually revived. She then took on an alias of Terminatrix. She eventually becomes an Avengers level threat and actually goes up against them in various battles throughout time. Eventually, a bunch of battles happen where she goes ahead and tries to get revenge against Kang, and Kang tries to get revenge against her. As you can tell, this is a terrible, terrible relationship. As Terminatrix, she eventually assumes the name of Rebecca Tormenay, which happened to be the real name of Judge Renslayer in Loki, and we know this because we see her name on the wall when they go back in time and visit her as a principal in Ohio. With the alias of Rebecca Tormenay, she travels back to 1903 to Timely, Wisconsin, reconciling her differences with Kang as his time as Victor Timely. If you want to learn more about Victor Timely and his role in the comics and in the upcoming season of Loki, check this video out.